Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. So everything is ready. So we are discussing the progress in the non-dualistic meditation, and we have explained 4
Nothing can talk.
So we have explained the 4 steps in the non-dual meditation, and we finish by discussing the 5 which explain actually how we progress according to the Bodhisattva Bhumi of the Yogācāra Bhumi Shastra. These 5 A's are easy to remember. And so far we have covered the first A, which is Ashraya. So this Ashraya, it means the foundation, the base. One has to have a solid base in understanding the Chitta Matrata, being, as we have explained, one of the 7 kinds of suchness. It is a suchness that all we experience in the base of mind. And when the mind is concentrated, that's why in all yoga traditions, we have to practice pratihara. We have to bring the mind to its source with the help of the object we are contemplating. Suppose we meditate on the breath. When we turn our attention in the breath, automatically, when we concentrate on the breath, the mind turns on itself. Because, as we should know, the breath does not exist without the mind, according to the Abhidharma. It is the Chitta Jarupa. It is the form itself created by the mind. And when we observe the breath with concentrated attention, automatically the mind will turn on itself. So, and this is not only case with the breath is a convenient object, but when we hold the picture of any object, the nimitta of any object, without holding this attention the sign of the object in the mind, then our mind will not be able to have clear differentiation of the object and the clear sensation of the object. Clear sensation of the object and clear differentiation of the object comes through clear perception, which is enabled by mindfulness. The mindfulness is what makes the mind not shake. The Theravada tradition explains mindfulness. Lakkhana is apilapana. The mind does not wobble at the object. Then we can perceive the sign of the object clearly. Perception becomes clear, then the sensation becomes clear, and the mind, differentiating mind, which relies on clarity of sensation and perception, then can define the object clearly. So the object then becomes what we have explained, becomes the pratibimba, the reflection of the object in the mind. So one becomes aware then, eventually, that it is the mind which functions like a mirror, reflecting the object. So just as the text explained, the image and the mirror, they are inseparable. So the mind and the object, they are inseparable. So the mind, which means the differentiation, as mind is defined as alambanam chintati ipichita, that which differentiates the object, that is a mind. And in this tradition, we have to, the base is to understand that the base of all the objects is the mind itself. The object does not come from outside, but is reflected in the mind itself. When we are attentive and our mind is stabilized, we will be able to see it, experience it ourselves. So this is the ashraya, the understanding of the chittamatrata. The understanding chittamatrata is based on the principle that the duality is created by the mind itself. This is the principle of Yogācāra. This is also the principle of any dualistic approach, any non-dualistic approach to meditation. Even in the Madhyamika, you will find the same principle. The dualism is not real and is the creation of the mind itself. And this mind, which creates this dualism, is actually empty. Just as Maitreya explains in Madhyanta Vibhanga, abhuta parikalpo asti dvayam tatra navidyate. Shunyata vidyate tatra tasyam apisa vidyate. Very simple verse, which is very important in the beginning at the Tattva Prakarana of the Madhyanta Vibhanga. This illusionary dualism that we experience in the world, which is called Abhuta Parikalpa, the imaginary creation of the mind, duality. It exists indeed. Abhuta Parikalpo Asti, but it exists not as we see it. It exists, so to say, deprived of duality. Because in the mind which produces this duality, its real nature is emptiness. Otherwise, it cannot reflect all the objects. And in this emptiness, indeed, exists the duality. So this is a difference between the highly realized person and ourselves. The highly realized person also sees the world as we see it, but he sees it without imposing on it, without the samaropa, the imposition of something on the reality which is not there. It's called samaropa. Depriving the reality of something which is there is called apavada. The middle way is being free from samaropa, being free from apavada, not grasping, but also not letting go anything. This kind of mind is the mind of the realized person. It just reflects things as they are in a state of emptiness. So there is the one who sees and there is what is seen, but we normally do not see it in emptiness. We see it as real subject and real object. This is the confusion due to which all the vasanas, the innate tendencies in the mind appear. And these innate tendencies in the mind, we can only remove, so it is believed in the non-dualistic tradition, by adopting the non-dualistic understanding. So this is ashraya. When we have ashraya, then we can practice adana. Adana means, in this sense, yonisho manasikara. The attention grounded in reality. The reality for this tradition is non-duality. The duality is our confusion. So we have to train the mind to place the attention on the object in such a way that it understands that this image, what we have called reflected image of the object, is not to be grasped. When we grasp it, or when we reject it. So we are in this tradition practicing the Ayonisho Manasikara. The attention not grounded in the reality. Not based on the reality. And the true reality in the Mahayana tradition, which is the non-dualistic tradition, is non-duality. So Yonisho Manasikara is the attention which is grounded in this reality of non-duality. This is the base of the training. So adhana means placing. We learn to place the mind in such a way that it is aware that the grasping and forceful rejection of the object is the base for the inflow and outflow of impurities into the mind. So it is based, this Yonisho Manasikara is not just impermanence, the suffering of impermanence, the non-self of impermanence. It is there. It is certainly there. But all these aspects appear when we grasp the object. Now, up to you to study now, and this is very important for understanding the non-dualistic tradition. What kind of mind is there when it does not take any sign of the object? It just is aware. It is also aware of the object. Awareness is there. But there is no grasping and there is no rejection. There is no graha. When there is no graha, there does not appear the grahaka, the subject, the one who grasps, and that which is grasped, the object of grasping does not appear. It does not appear in the mind which has Yonisho Manasikara, which has the attention based in the non-dualistic nature of our experience. So this impermanence is there. Not seeing impermanence is certainly vipalasa, viparyasa. But this impermanence is connected to the mind which grasps the sign of the object. The 5 aggregates, the 12 bases, 6 inner bases, 6 outer bases, 18 elements. This is definitely, it definitely exists. But it all exists, as we have explained, it all exists in emptiness. Shunyata abhuta parikalpo asti dvayam tatra na vidyate shunyata vidyate tatra. This appearance of duality appears in emptiness. So this emptiness is the base for suchness. Suchness is emptiness, emptiness is suchness. So we have explained yesterday, the suchness has the aspect of the worldly reality. And we define the correct view in the worldly reality. Very important to understand. We need vipassana to have the correct view, but this correct view is in regard to the worldly reality. The worldly reality is all in the, when you take the sign of it, when you take the sign of the world, of the object, inner or outer, then of course there is impermanent. That is the right view. That is avipalasa, aviparyasa. But if you don't take the sign of the object, where is the mind? It's still the sampajanya, the awareness is there. Awareness is there. So in this tradition, as we will learn later, the awareness and the suchness, they are one reality. The true awareness is the awareness of the suchness. And the suchness exists in the highest sense, and the suchness exists also in the world. And the world is whenever you grasp the sign of the object. Then that object will appear in the mind. And as we have explained, it will appear as a pratibimba, reflected image in the mind. And when you want to place your mind on the same image, that means you are practicing shamatha. That means you keep, as we will see in the text, you keep the mind on the same image, which remain the same in the past, present, and you make effort to maintain it also in the future. So that's how you attain shamatha. So the practicing of shamatha in this tradition, very important to understand, is connected with the realization of the highest reality. The highest reality is indeed suchness, is indeed emptiness, the non-dualistic state of mind, which creates the illusion of duality. Now, you also need, definitely need vipassana, but in vipassana, you change the object. So it is called the differentiated mental image. You change the object with the awareness that whenever you grasp the object, you distinguish the object. You distinguish its own characteristic. When you distinguish its own characteristic, you will also see very clearly its common characteristic, the impermanence, the unsatisfactory state of impermanence, which is called dukkha. Dukkha literally means the bad sky. The mind is in a bad sky. Dukkha, dukkha means sky. It is in the bad sky, literally, when it grasps the image. Which image? Mental image. And it is in the state of sukha, when it does not grasp the image, because the awareness and suchness, the shamatha opens the gate for awareness of suchness. The ultimate shamatha is the state of non-grasping to any mental image. So dissolving completely not only the illusion of the self in the person, but the illusion of the self in any mental image, and whatever we grasp in the mind is the mental image, not the reality. So when I see something like a table, it is true, I see the color. If I touch it, I will experience the hardness, but actually my first perception will be the table, which is based on the name. And due to this name, due to this concept, then I will have attachment to the table. If I have one, if I continue to differentiate it on the basis of the personal benefit, I need a better table and so on. So we definitely need a vipassana to cultivate the samyak drishti, the right view. But we need shamatha, and we will see the shamatha is explained on different principles according to the Abhidhamma, also according to the Sanskrit tradition of Abhidharma, according to the Agamas. The practice of shamatha means the practice of the 8 samapatis. 8 attainments. The 4 dhyanas in the realm of the subtle forms, and the 4 dhyanas in the non-form, in the arupa. When you master this, so these 8 samapatis, you have mastered the shamatha according to the tradition of the agamas. In the sutras, the Buddha will also explain sometimes the 4 samapatis, sometimes 8 samapatis, before explaining vipassana. This is common. Common to Pali tradition, common to Sanskrit tradition. But here in this tradition, the vipassana means working with changing the mental images. The shamatha means keeping the same mental image in the mind. Now, in order to be able to do that, you need to develop samadhi. Without the samadhi, you will not be able to develop. So the third step towards deeper realization, you train your mind on the objects that enable you to withdraw into the mind completely. The practice of the dhyana is a practice of experiencing the manomaya kaya. When you are in dhyana, because of your pratyahara, the objects of the senses go into background. If you become a great yogi, they disappear completely. But this is practically impossible for a normal meditator. For that, one has to go like the Buddha did in his previous lives, many lives, go to the Himalayas and practice in complete solitude for many years. Then you can get the very deep dhyana in which the input from the five senses practically disappears. So the teacher of the Buddha, like Ramaputta, he could sit by the trunk road and 500 bullock carts passed by without him hearing anything. The Buddha himself, he when meditating in the forest, the tree fell next to him, but he also did not hear anything. So deep was his dhyana. But in this tradition, as we will see later, the practice of the dhyana is also important, but most important is the training in placing the mind on the object equally, with all the mental factors being in perfect balance. It is also explained in the Visuddhimagga even. So you go into the dhyana when needed, and you don't need to go into the dhyana. Important is you can stay in the anabhoga manasikara. You stay in attention without any effort, without any using any effort at all. So you don't need any effort to keep your mind perfectly balanced. So the practicing, training the mind to stay balanced with an object is called adarsha. Adarsha means mirror. This mirror is, of course, the mind, as the text explains. Now, which mind? Of course, the alaya mind, the karmic mind. From which the subjective aspect and the objective aspect appears. So when you have the object, meditation with object, there is still, even so in dhyana, even so you have melted with the object, the mind has completely united with the object, still there is the impression of there being the one who sees and something which is seized, which is seized by the mind, the mental image. this impression is blurred because they merge together. But still, there is something to be grasped, and there is something which is grasping. As soon as you clearly differentiate the object, you perceive the object on the base of its sign. So there still will be this tendency of seeing the subjective aspect and the objective aspect as being separated. Now the next step is aloka. Aloka means light. When you are in the dhyana, your mind will illumine the object. That's for sure. But now this aloka belongs to the object-less meditation. When you develop the habit of not grasping any image, you will be witnessing the sampajanya aspect of the mind, the awareness of the light of the mind. So this is a meaning, as Anguttara Nikaya says, it's very important for this tradition. Prabhasvaram vichitam. The mind is illumined. Agantu kehi upaklisehi upaklitam. It is defiled by the kleshas, by the impurities coming from outside, from the objects. Because we grasp to the object, we push away the object, therefore our mind is defiled. But it is not defiled by its nature. Now, in the tradition of the Agamas, in Theravada, this illumined mind is explained as bhavanga. In the tradition of the Mahayana, based on the Transcendental Wisdom Sutras, this Prabhasvaram Chitam, the naturally illumined mind, is actually the nature of the mind, nature of the awareness. What awareness? The non-dualistic awareness. So the dhyana, in dhyana also, you have the capability of illumining the object. When you meditate on the breath, and you get a strong concentration on the place, on the anapanamimika, the place where you touch the breath around the nostrils or at the whole body, depends how you meditate. You will also illumine that anapanamimika, the sign of the object. You cannot have perception and consciousness of the breath unless you are being attentive to its appearance in your body, right? Because the breath is, as we have explained, is a mind-created materiality. And this image that you can also experiment in your meditation, this clear image of the breath, which you will get through meditation on the breath, it actually belongs to the four elements. The mind has the ability of illumine this form. The form is the four elements. The elements are four elements are the form. The derived form, like the colors and so on, is also based on the four elements. And mind can, these four elements, they can be experienced either as in a very gross manner, but in meditation they are experienced in a very subtle way through these subtle images. So the meditation on the breath is the meditation on sublimation of the breath. Sublimation of the breath by shamatha and vipassana. Shamatha and vipassana is the way of dealing with the object. Meditator deals with the object by shamatha and vipassana. So he does not get stuck in the object. Getting stuck in the object means identifying with the defilements which the mind produces in regard to the objects. But the defilement exists. But this defilement is not, as wise Shariputra explains, is not based on the object, is not based on the subject, but it's based on the yoke between the subject and the object, which is a mind. Now, this yoke appears when you grasp the mental image of the object. When you grasp the mental image of the object, this yoke appears. And with this yoke is a result of these latent tendencies of your mind, of these anushayas, which are called in this tradition the bijas, the seeds. These seeds appear when you grasp the image of the object. And this image of the object is a mental object. That's why it is called pratibimba. So these three realities about which we have taught, which we have explained, they are for the purpose of understanding that whatever you grasp, that is a parikalpita reality, based on the names. In this tradition, even the five aggregates, they are parikalpita reality, if you grasp them. In the agamas, they are the paratantra reality, they are the dependent origination reality. But unless you grasp them, and you grasp them on the base of the name, then when you grasp them, they become the parikalpita reality, because you grasp on them on the base of the name. So the 5 upadana skandhas, they are the parikalpita reality. Now, as we have explained, the dependent origination is a fact, but unless we become the Buddhas, this the fact of the suchness of the mind will not be revealed to us. As long as there is a grasping. And the parikalpita reality, which is based on the grasping, as we have explained, does not really arise. But once the discussion of, we have explained, the Yogācāra explained the 3 turnings of the wheel of Dharma. It is for the Yogācārans, it is the ultimate teachings of the Buddha. If you say that this Paratantra is emptiness, our Paratantra is based on the Parikalpita, because we hold to the 5 aggregates. They are upadana skandhas. That's why we are not in nirvana, we are in samsara. So if you say that they are emptiness, then you also abolish the parikalpita, because once you abolish paratantra, you abolish parikalpita, so you have no means. Once you the parikalpita is very useful for understanding that the 5 upadana skandhas, as long as you grasp to them, they are, so to say, they have never really arisen. Because they have arisen based on the imagined reality of the real subject and the real object, which causes these vasanas, as we have explained, these vachi vasanas, which are deep in our mind. So we attach not to the reality, we attach to the concepts of the reality. That's why we need parikalpita to understand it. And if you say that paratantra is empty, then you cannot abolish paratantra without abolishing the parikalpita also. So, as we have explained, this paratantra must exist, but it exists in emptiness. And this is what is to be seen. And it is seen very clearly in the stage of aloka. You have to see how this awareness is nothing else but the very nature of suchness, and suchness is nothing else but the very nature of the awareness. And awareness is light of the mind. Once you see it clearly, the next A is ashraya paravriti, a revolution of the mind. This is a similarity with the Samkhya Yoga. Chitta Vritti Nirodha. But explained in a different way. Not explained by Prakriti, but explained by the mind itself. This duality comes from the mind itself. You don't need the Prakriti for that. So, this is very important to understand. That's why we pay more attention to this beginning, these four objects. As long as you have no clear understanding of the suchness, and no matter whether you are a realized person as the disciple or realized person of the Pratyeka Buddha, or you are a realized person of the Bodhisattva, the object of your realization is not called nirvana, is something to be attained. But here it is called suchness, because the suchness has no opposite. The opposite, we talk about nirvana because it is the opposite of samsara. But the suchness has no opposite. There is suchness in the world, and the highest reality is also nirvana, is also suchness. So there is nothing to oppose to suchness. Suchness is the only reality. The Four Noble Truths, they are the truths of suchness. We have explained that. The suchness of being established in the world, is established in the adhana consciousness, which clings to the world, which literally sticks to the world, alaya. Being established in the world, being established in the dukkha satya. Dukkha satya is the suchness. Suchness, if there is a Buddha or there is no Buddha, this suchness will be always there. As long as you are established in the world, you are established in dukkha, under the bad sky of impermanence. So you have to practice vipassana to see that this impermanence is dukkha, and that this dukkha cannot belong to any atta. And since it cannot belong to any atta, or it is, of course, not belonging to the self, so it is empty of the self. But here, you want to realize not only empty of the self, you want to realize empty completely of whatever objects. All objects, the emphasis shifts from the person to the objects. All objects, it's nothing but only images in the mind. And when you grasp to these images, you grasp to the samsaric existence. So this is the suchness of dukkha. So you are established in dukkha. You are established in dukkha because of the suchness of the wrong conduct of tanha. Then, when you remove the tanha, so you have the suchness of the right conduct, whether there is a Buddha or not. It's always suchness. And when you practice the right conduct, no grasping, then you attain the suchness of purity. The suchness of purity is the suchness of awareness. And here in the non-dualistic meditation, it is the awareness that the asavas, the ashravas, inflow and outflow of impurities, does not come from the mind which has awareness. It comes from the mind which loses the awareness. So we will see the development of shamatha leads to the understanding of the citta matrata, of the mind being the only reality. There is no other reality. And you are aware of it when you practice the correct placing of the mind on the reality without grasping the image of the reality. The reality appears to the mind as images. So you need to change these images to practice vipassana, and you need to stabilize your mind on these images so that it does not move. The mind which does not move is the mind which can penetrate the citta matrata. The citta matrata is a suchness. So we have explained these 4 objects. Now I hope you have understood that as long as you have no direct realization which is connected with awareness, as long as you have not the direct realization, so you are only, so to say, in the prison of these mental images. And your whole meditation has only then 2 objects, either the image with differentiation or image without differentiation. How to use these images will be explained in the how to use these images will be explained in the following section. So I will not explain now. So once you have the direct realization of the suchness, nirvana is also the suchness, direct seeing of suchness, then we have explained 3 images. You have the vastu paryanta reality. That means reality in which all is included. In this reality, which you have realized, the suchness, all is included. So that's why you don't take this world and the kleshas, the inflow and outflow of impurities to the mind, you don't take it personally. We have explained. So you have kleshas, but you have the Savastuka kleshas, which have base in the reality. If you believe in the self, so you have avastuka kleshas. The kleshas which have no base in the reality. Because the self has no base in the reality. It belongs to the conventional reality, but it has no place in the highest reality. This is what Arya realizes. The self is there, but it is conventional reality. There is no problem. The self is definitely there. There is good, there is bad, there is self, there is woman, there is man. But all this exists in the conventional reality. There is no place for that in the ultimate reality as such. And here the ultimate reality is not called nirvana, it is called the suchness, emptiness. So as to lead you to the realization of the highest realization, the non-dual realization, which is connected to the Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, is the realization of the Dharmakaya, not just realization of the Vimuktikaya, the realization of the Dharma body, not just realization of the body of liberation. So, once you become a realized person in Arya, you have the three objects. Now, when you become Karya Nishpati, when you have done all that is to be done, either as a disciple, or as a Pratyeka Buddha, or as a Bodhisattva, then you have Karya Nishpati, you have Katam Karaniyam, you have done what is to be done according to the either to the disciple discipline or to the Bodhisattva discipline. The Bodhisattva discipline, as we have explained, is based on the practice of the perfections. That's why after the explanation of the shamatha and vipassana, we have the explanation of the perfections, the questions of no one else but the Chenreza, the Avalokiteshvara himself. So now we come to the next question. And now the question is, how many of these four are objects of focus in shamatha, tranquility? How many are objects of focus in observation, that means vipassana? And how many are objects of focus in both shamatha and vipassana? So the Buddha replied, one that which is without conceptual images, he translates this pratibimba, the reflected images, as conceptual images. He may be justified to do so, because as we have explained, even the five skandhas, they are viparikalpika, they are conceptual images. Unless somebody explains to you the five aggregates, you're not likely to know what is five aggregates. They are based on the concepts. In other meditative traditions, they may not use the 5 aggregates. They use some other skillful means to lead you to the purity of the mind. The advantage of Buddhism is that since there is no concept of the real self, there is nothing to hang the mind on. So this is the advantage of the Buddhist teaching. Otherwise, the other disciplines have the same in Vedanta and Samkhya, also to lead to the purity of the mind. But this purity of the mind is defined as Atman or as Purusha, but in Buddhism, it is here, as you see, defined as Samprajanya, the awareness. Awareness of what? Awareness that these states of defilement, they are always related to grasping the images of the mind. But these images, they are appearing in the mind itself. In which mind? In that mind which perceives the sign of the object. Which grasps the sign of the object. So we have also explained, first there is this Vipaka consciousness, resultant consciousness, then it leads, it develops into the signs, and the signs develop into these reflected images, which here are translated as conceptual images. And we grasp to the world, we grasp to the conceptual images of the world, but the real world is not what appears to us as conceptual images. This is very important to understand. This is why we explain these 5 A's to come to this awareness. What we grasp is not the world, but the conceptual image produced by the mind itself. So, one that which is without conceptual images is the object of focus of tranquility. So it means that you take, suppose we meditate on the breath. How do we know the breath? By what consciousness? By body consciousness, vibration, wind, and the mental consciousness. The mental consciousness produces the image in this vibration. When you stay with this image, you may call it with this concept of the breath. This may be the best name for it. This anapana nimitta becomes the image of the breath. When you hold to this image of the breath, you don't hold to the real breath, because the real breath is always vibrating, moving, changing. You cannot grasp it. What you can grasp is the mental concept of the breath. And the mental concept of the breath can only be grasped by the mental 6 consciousness. It cannot be grasped by the bodily consciousness. And when you keep the same image, then the mind will illumine that image. Then this reflected image, illumined, will become the object of your dhyana, anapana dhyana. So in the tradition of Yogācāra Bhumi Shastra, in the Shravaka Bhumi section, you will find actually, in order to understand meditation in a way of the disciple, and the way of disciple is the base for the way of the Bodhisattvas. If the Bodhisattva does not understand how the Shravaka meditates, so if he does not understand the Four Noble Truths, he is likely to misunderstand the Bodhisattva path also, because it is a base. And according to this tradition, you have the 5 objects of purifying the conduct. You have to purify the conduct in order to realize suchness. So if you have many sensual desires, especially sexual desires, which are the strongest sensual drive, you meditate on the asubha, impurities. If you have the dosa charita, if you are the raga charita, then asubha. If you are a dosa charita, if you are easily to get anger, you meditate on the maitri, on metta. If you are a vitarka charita, you have many useless thoughts, you meditate on breath. If you are a moha charita, if you are completely deluded about and things that everything depends on you, then you meditate on the dependent origination. If you are the mana charita, you meditate on the 6 dhatus, like in dhatu vibhanga. You meditate on the 6 dhatus to make you aware that you are not as smart as you think. Finally, the person is just the 4 elements, the space and the mind element. That's all consciousness element. There is nothing to be proud about. So you can see the objects of vipassana can become also the object of shamatha in this tradition, because they are all conceptual images, and these conceptual images you can hold in mind. Which mind? The 6 consciousness. Only the 6 consciousness can differentiate the concepts. Then you have the upaya kaushalyam, 5 objects. For the 5 aggregates, you can use them for shamatha and vipassana. We have explained the 5 aggregates are also conceptual images. Then you have the 6 or 12 ayatanas, 6 inner and 6 outer spheres, 18 dhatus. Then you have the dependent origination, again, you can use to get rid of your moha. And you have the bhavya and abhavya, what is possible and not possible on the base of dependent origination. These are the skillful means. You can use them for samatha, you can use them for vipassana. Then you have the 2 objects of purification, The worldly purification is on the base of the objects of shamatha, the objects that you can grasp, and the supramundane purification is based on the Four Noble Truths. So this is a worldly purification and the supramundane purification for the disciple. And the teaching of the disciple is a base for the understanding of the highest reality. So the bodhisattva also has to learn the practice, at least theoretically. He does not need to go through the same process, but theoretically, he has to be familiar with the practice of the Shravakas to understand the practice of the bodhisattvas. And with this, we end today. And we leave a little space for questions if there are any. And we continue with the next questions, explaining how to have the correct base and the correct attention in the non-dualistic meditation. And in this part, we will also explain the process of shamatha and vipassana according to this. And then we will explain the objects of shamatha and vipassana, and we will explain how the awareness of suchness removes the inflow of impurities and outflow of the mind based on non-dualistic understanding. So that's all for today.
Bhante, one question. Could you clarify a little more the difference between Anabhoga Manasakara and the kinds of attention cultivated in jhana?
In jhana, you also have Anabhoga Manasakara, of course, sure. But we will explain it in the 9 chitta sthitis, the 9 abodes of mind on the way to shamatha. This is how we explain in non-dualistic meditation shamatha. But the samadhi is not explained as dhyana. The samadhi is explained as the ability to stay in a faultless attention. But here to the non-differentiated attention. Okay.
Bhante, there is one question from Vipassi. Okay, Vipassi,
yes.
the question.
Yes. Bhante, I unfortunately I lost the beginning of the class because of some conditions. So maybe you have answered that. I don't know if you have explained the full 5 A's. If this is explained, I have lost. But for what I have 2 questions. One is the light of the mind. When is suchness and when is alaya or karmic mind?
Oh, this is very difficult question. Huh? You have to be a very, very highly realized person. Actually, you have to be a Buddha, because according to Vasubandhu and this tradition of Maitreya, only the fully realized Buddha understands fully the Chitta Matraka. Chitta Matraka, you have to become a fully realized Buddha to understand completely. Even the Bodhisattva in the 10th stage of the realization, which is this is like a Maitreya Buddha, Maitreya Bodhisattva. Even he is still not completely realized the Chitta Matrata. Only the Buddha himself realizes Chitta Matrata completely. So we can only get the deeper and deeper intuition into this state. In case of Buddha, when you realize fully, penetrate fully the alaya, how do you know? You know because the ashraya paravriti, this alaya, has no base anymore.
Okay, thank you, Bhante.
So, so when the alaya has no base anymore, there is no place for karmic consciousness, which gives rise to the avarjana chitta, to the consciousness which turns to the object, and to the consciousness, khyati consciousness, which reveals the object as separate from the subjective side of consciousness. So it is a process. And in this process, you first, you have to practice the prayoga marga, the effort marga. Then you will have the direct realization. In the direct realization, you still have not realized, you only realize partly.
Oh, okay. And the other question you maybe have answered also, if it's regarding if the 5 aggregates are also parikalpita, or the 5 aggregates are also concepts, which I am agree. Then what is the difference between the third object and the first object? Because it would be the same, no?
What I did not understand, sorry.
If the 5 aggregates are also paññātis or images, they will be images with differentiation. So
yes, they are the according to the worldly reality, they are same like in Theravada. They are the concepts which have base in realities, like the 5 aggregates, and they are concepts which have no base in reality. Huh? So it is the same. The correct view is based on the concepts which have a base in reality, like the 5 aggregates, like the 4 elements and so on. They make for correct view. And Vipassana is to realize the correct view. But the correct view is, again, through penetrating the worldly reality, you penetrate the suchness. This is a Buddhist speciality. Okay?
Thank you. Okay. I would take more time to understand that.
So now, any other questions? We can finish here.
Yes, sir.
Eta vata chamehe sampata guna sampata sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampati siddhi. Eta vata chamehe sampata guna sampata sabbe uta anumodantu sabba sampati siddhi. Eta vata chamehe sampata guna sampata sabbe satta anumodantu sabba sampati siddhi. Yeni sepunto uchi water region said may the merit of this practice spread to all beings so that we attain the state of Buddha. Okay.